Let me start by wishing all our sisters, daughters, wives, all our women a very happy International Women's Day. And to explain that our female members in the analysis team are busy leading very important work marking the International Women's Day, and have asked us to sit in on their behalf for this press conference. Tomorrow, the 9th of March, 2019, we will once again exercise our civic rights and responsibilities as citizens to elect our governors and members of the State Houses of Assembly. Despite some of the hitches experienced during the presidential and National Assembly elections that took place on Saturday, the 23rd of February 2019, we as a people and as citizens of Nigeria demonstrated our commitment to peaceful elections, and such commitment should be carried over to the final round tomorrow. Tomorrow's elections are important because governors are about the most strategic positions in governance, and who emerges often have a direct bearing on good governance and improved or worsened security in the country. The State Houses of Assembly have been historically incapable of oversighting governors. And if and when we improve the quality of the intake into that body, governance will certainly improve in the country. The greatest challenge to good governance in Nigeria is the relatively high percentage of governors who are excessively corrupt, irresponsible in their governance mandates, and often almost completely absent from their respective states. Our hope is that citizens have closely monitored and assessed the performance of their governors and are ready to reward the good governors and sanction the bad ones. During the last election, one of the challenges encountered is the thuggery orchestrated by some of the governors. There is a strong possibility that some of them will be tempted to use the vast resources at their disposal to affect electoral outcomes. In the last round, some sitting governors in Guber and Oyo states lost their senatorial bids, and in the case of Imo State, the governor was alleged to have forced the returning officer to declare him elected under duress. As Nigerian governors consider any challenge to their desires as unacceptable behavior that requires maximum punishment, security agencies must be at their best to ensure that governors too abide by the law. I'll now invite my colleague, Professor Jideofor Adibe, to give us a brief assessment of the states of Lagos, Imo, and Plateau leading up to tomorrow's election. Professor Adibe.
Ladies and gentlemen, what we're trying to do is just to emphasize on some of the dynamics that are likely to play out in tomorrow's election in the states of Lagos, Plateau, and then Imo. We are not trying to predict who wins, but Lagos, as some of us know, is quite very important. Apart from having the highest number of registered voters at 6.5 million, it also has a very interesting demographics, with the Yoruba and the Igbo being the two largest ethnic blocks there. And the two dominant, although there are several political parties, we believe it's going to be a straight fight, a straight contest between the PDP, who has Abaje as its governorship candidate, and Sanwo-Olu in APC. So one of the interesting things that is happening, and we followed what happened at the presidential election, where these two blocks, ethnic blocks, there was an attempt to rather politicize the relationship and the distrust between the two existing political parties. So we are trying to look at how is it likely to play out tomorrow. Also of importance in Lagos State is that Tinubu has maintained this stranglehold not just in Southwest, but in Lagos in particular since 2007, when he finished his second term as a governor. And we do know there are tendencies, there are people that want to repeat the Otege, that enough is enough, that they believed helped to defeat Saraki and end the reign of the Saraki dynasty in Kwara State. So those who are not favorably disposed to the Tinubu politics are trying to resurrect that under different banners. That's what they call the Orange Movement. And there are also suspicions that some of his enemies or political opponents, within and without, might try to form a marriage of convenience just to make sure that he's humiliated. So we're also going to look at whether the PDP is likely to benefit from that or not. But of course, both parties are fractionalized. You have the fractionalization of the tendencies within the PDP, for example, whether George Bode is very enthusiastic in supporting Abaje, and whether Ambode, who was unable to get a second term, is also, whether his heart and soul is in APC or not. As I mentioned briefly with respect to Lagos, we are going to look at the weaponization of the Igbo-Yoruba distrust, ethnic relations. In fact, in the last election, it was quite obvious that efforts were made to suppress some of the Igbo votes, and in the last time they got 2 reps, and it didn't go down very well with so many people, because the changes in demographics anywhere in the world sometimes create tension between the indigenes and settlers, quote unquote. So we are going to look at, besides, some people believe that the outcome of the Lagos election will be a pointer to the contention between the 2 ethnic blocs on who will lay claim to the politics of producing the president in 2023. So that's for Lagos, one of the things we believe will play a good role. For Imo State is also a very interesting state. There are 65 candidates running to succeed Okorocha as the governor, and that is the highest number of candidates in any state. In any of the 29 taking part in the governorship election tomorrow, Imo State alone has 65. But as in everything else, of all the 65 candidates, 5 are regarded as the frontline candidates. And these are Emeka Ihedioha, who was a former deputy speaker of the House of Reps under Tambuwal. Then you also have Hope Uzodimma, who is the flag bearer for APC and who was a senator. Then you have Ikedio Hakim, who was a governor of the state, but lost out on his second term bid. He's representing a court party. Then, of course, Ifeanyi Ararume, who he also was a senator, representing APGA. And then, of course, you have Uche Nwosu, who is from African Alliance, but is being propped up by the current governor, Okorocha. Is also his son-in-law. And so it's going to be a battle of the titans. The 3 candidates of all these 5, the 3 candidates are seen as representing APC under different platforms. For example, Uzodimma is the official candidate, but many people say he's the candidate of Oshiomhole, and that he doesn't have the support of the mainstream. True or false, we don't know. They also say that Buhari doesn't in particular support him, and that was the reason why, when he was in Imo, he said, you can vote, vote for me, but vote according to your conscience when it comes to your order. But the party clarified and said it wasn't what he meant. And then if you look at Ararume in APGA, just less than a month after defecting from APC, he became the flag bearer of APGA. And there were rumors and side talks on whether it was a deal, that as soon as if he got it, then he would decamp That's exactly what Okorocha himself did anyway. So, and then the candidate of Ararume is Apka, but they also believe that he's going to the camp. So, if there is anything in Imo State, if there's any consensus, we don't usually have a elite consensus in among the Igbo. They aggregate and agree on values, but rarely follow individuals. But if there's any consensus, it's that they don't want Okorocha to stop. Even though they say they don't want Okorocha, you don't push him around because he's demonstrated some capacity. This is a guy who has been contesting for nomination of key parties. In ANPP, he was believed to be the one who actually won the primaries before Buhari came in 2003. And then under Obasanjo, he also contested for the nomination and actually put up a brave fight. Above all, for him to have won the governorship under APC in Imo State at a time when it was an anathema to hear the word APC in the Southeast, means that give it to him, he has some capacity. And then, so people are saying, and he himself has warned that it's not going to be easy for anyone. And recently he was suspended by the party and unsuspended again. So a number of things people are watching the scenario with interest. One of the things we are going to watch out for Imo State is the high propensity, the likelihood of violence in that state. And on television, Iba Uchi, the returning officer, clearly said that he was held hostage for 16 hours and was forced to declare Okorocha as the senator-elect. And we have had so many other statements, people saying that under him, we don't know how much of it is political, that under him, Imo State has become the river state of Southeast. We have to see it. But what is clear is that given the caliber of the 5 leading contestants, it's certainly going to be a state to watch. Now I'll talk briefly about Plateau State. Plateau State seems to be a straight fight between Governor Lalong of APC and J.T. Useni, who was former minister of Federal Capital Territory. The dynamics we expect to play out there will be religious undertones. First is that Lalong was in a better position because the previous PDP governor was not paying salaries. So when he came around and started paying salaries, these are the kind of things that in our kind of society, even though it is what you're expected to do, is considered as evidence of being an achieving governor. And then there were issues in the local government of of October that left a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. We don't know to what extent that has damaged his own image. We don't. We also know that there are religious undertones that the PDP is feeling in the 2 major Christian tendencies. They are the Kokin and the Catholics. And the PDP, which is fielding Jeremiah Husseini, who is probably in his early 80s, they have both the governorship candidate and the deputy coming from the Kokin, in essence marginalizing the Catholics. On the other hand, the APC is called a Muslim party in that. So we are going to look at how this is not just religion, but also denominational issues that will come to play. So we are going to see how that plays out. Of course, one of the things we also note about the Middle Belt, Plateau, and Benue State in particular is the conversations that seem to be going on where to anchor their identity. Should they join the clamor for restructuring? You see the alliance when they talk about the Ohanese now, Afenifere, Middle Belt, and all. Should they anchor their own identity with the South, or should they really try to negotiate their own identity within the North, where they belong? That's been a big conversation that we don't know how it can impact on the outcome of the election. And it's also sometimes not very easy to read from the presidential election because there are local dynamics that often play out and inform decisions at the gubernatorial and other levels at the local level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll now call on Dr. Abubakar Kari to give us the state of play on Adamawa, Sokoto, and Bauchi states. Dr. Kari.
Do I remain here? Or do
No, let me.
Or do we swap?
I'm actually. You have to.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will begin with Adamawa. In Adamawa, we are envisaging a 3-horse race. It's a race involving the incumbent Governor Umar Jibrila Bindo of the APC, Ahmadu Umaru Fintri of PDP, and Abdulaziz Murtala Nyako of ADC. Some of the interesting things in Adamawa State is that the race is clearly not about performance or lack of it, because there is almost a consensus that the governor has performed fairly well. Also, for the first time, there is no strong Christian candidate in contention, even though we have candidates like Emmanuel Bello, but he's generally considered as an outsider. And for a state like Adamawa State, this is quite interesting. Another very interesting thing is that the incumbent major headache, interestingly, comes from within his own APC. Particularly the ripples that were raised during the primaries are yet to settle down. There are people that he contested the primaries with. They are no longer with him. And some of them are openly campaigning against him. A typical example is the younger brother of the First Lady, Alilu Modi, and retired General Mohammed Buba Marwa. Then the position of people like Nuhu Ribad and even the SGF, Boss Mustafa, is not clear. But what is very clear is that they have never been with the governor. The race is going to be tight because the two opponents of the governor are quite formidable. For instance, Umaru Ahmadu Fintiri was the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, and at a point in time, he held forth as an acting governor. And during his brief period, he managed to do one or two things that he still remembered from. The first was that he was able to clear salary backlog, and he embarked on some infrastructural projects, particularly within Yola. And so people now regard him as some kind of performer. And then, of course, he will enjoy the Atiku factor. Atiku is from Adamawa State, and he's some kind of a lord with a very massive and wide structure that is likely going to be deployed to the PDP candidate. In addition, the results of the National Assembly and presidential election really favor the PDP. And so the momentum for now appears to be with the PDP. On the other hand, Abdulaziz Murtala Inyako comes from a very famous family. His father was a governor between 2007 and 2013 or 2014. And so he has an existing political structure which has been deployed to the son. In addition, Abdulaziz is a young person in his early 40s, and so he appears to be attracting the support of young voters. Another thing going for him is that among the three, he is the so-called true Fulani candidate. The others are not exactly Fulani, even though they speak the language, and the Fulanis are quite many in the state. So because of these reasons and few others, we believe that Adamawa is one of the states to watch, and that the rest is not only interesting, it will likely be tight. Then Bauchi State. In Bauchi State, the governor faces the battle of his political life. It is going to be very, very difficult for him for so many reasons. The chief among them is this widespread perception that he has underperformed and that he's not in the good book of most of the power centers in the state. The traditional institution, the Islamic clerics, a large section of the elite in the state. But even more seriously, just like Bindo in Adamawa State, M.A. Abubakar of Bauchi State also faces rebellion from within, perhaps even greater than the one the Adamawa State governor faces. The 2014 primaries was quite acrimonious. Some of the people he defeated then have continued to fight him up to now. And the 2018 primaries was even worse. It tends to compound problem for him. And therefore, from within the APC in Bauchi State, many have been clamoring that MA must go. And this clamor is being championed by, for instance, the former Police Affairs Minister, Dr. Ibrahim Yakubu Lami, and a very prominent politician from the Northern Senatorial Zone, Captain Bala Jibrin. Then, even more significantly, in the past few months, there have been an attempt to build a formidable front among the state's governing elite, which is being championed by the Wazir Mbauchi Bello Kirifi and the Speaker of House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara. They have been trying to convince other candidates to line up behind one person in order to forge a more formidable front to confront the governor. And two of the candidates that are being considered for this are the PDP candidate, the former FCT minister, Bala Mohammed, and the PRP candidate and former health minister, Professor Mohammed Ali Pati. Then the issue of the Islamic clerics, they are quite influential in the states, and a few of them have come out to openly preach against the re-election of the governor. A typical example is Sheikh Dairu Usman Bauchi, who has been openly canvassing for one of the opponents of the governor. And the presidential and National Assembly election, particularly the National Assembly election, has shown that all is not well with the APC in the state, because two of the largest federal constituencies, that is Bauchi Federal Constituency and the Katagum Federal Constituency, voted PRP. Their elected members are from the little-known PRP. And of course, the Speaker won his desk, Tafa Balewa and Bogoro Federal Constituency. And since 2007, Bauchi State, perhaps more than any other states, has shown the capacity to inflict crushing electoral defeats for the so-called high-profile leaders, including sitting governors. We all remember that Amadou Adamu has failed to get a senatorial seat in 2007, and the same fate befell Isa Guber, who also fell. In fact, the talk in town in Bauchi is that the bigger they come, the easier that we defeat them. And the governor is quite aware of that, because they have the ability to really vote, protect their vote, and insist that the popular candidate is declared. And that presents a serious danger to the governor. However, the governor has not been sitting. He is also doing well. He has been able to convince many gladiators, particularly from the PDP, to defect to the APC. One of them, of course, is the former governor and former national chairman of the party, Moazu. Another former governor, Guber, also defected. And the deputy national chairman of the PDP, Senator Babio Garba-Gamawa, is now the governor's director general of campaign. He was able to convince him. And then there are several others. So in Bauchi State is a titanic clash, and I can assure you that it can go the way of any of the three parties. Then finally, Sokoto State. At the seat of the Caliphate, it is a two-way race. The incumbent governor and former speaker, Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, is squaring up with his former deputy, Ahmadu Aliyu, who is also the protege of Senator Aliyu Magatakada Wamoko, who is considered to be the single biggest godfather in the state. The Sokoto race is very important. I mean, is very interesting because its outcome has the potential to retire Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, at least for now. He took a very big risk by contesting for the presidency, and so he incurred the wrath of the APC in Sokoto and in Abuja, and they are ganging up to ensure that he's humiliated. The race is equally interesting because there is ego and godfather rivalry at stake, particularly among three or four persons. I mentioned Tambuwal and the deputy governor, but then there is also Wamako and Bafarawa. Bafarawa and the billionaire Omar Nkobo, who is quite formidable, are the major supporters of Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, while Wamako is lining up behind his own protege. Ordinarily, the voting pattern in Sokoto is predictable, but perhaps because of the perennial presidential ambition of Tambuwal, everything has now changed. And again, if we look at the presidential and National Assembly elections, we may tend to conclude that Tambuwal is in trouble because APC literally swept over the polls. Buhari won there, and they got over 80% of the Senate and National Assembly polls. Also, Tambuwal is being accused as an absentee governor who has not been in state, and I mean in the state for most of the time, and for abandoning his mandate as a governor to be adventurous to go and contest for the presidency. So that will also likely count against him. However, the overbearing and domineering tendency of Wamako is not liked by many people in the state. There is some kind of gang up among the elites in the state to ensure that he is cut to size. He is cut down to size. And then, of course, there has been the propaganda that if the APC win, they will depose the Sultan. The allegation flying about is that the Sultanate Council and the traditional institution are not happy with Wamaku, and therefore they will likely support the PDP. So, because of all these things, the internal contradictions in Sokoto and the rivalry among the political gladiators clearly put the state as a state to watch, and that it is one of the battleground states. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ogun State. So, Ogun State has almost always been a battleground in Nigerian politics. And there have been issues, there have been dynamics of personal ambitions, group issues, sub-ethnic interests, the influence of the big man in politics, issues of history and ideology are all present in Ogun State. The state is important in the elections because it's the home state of some of Nigeria's biggest political figures. These include Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Chief MKO Abiola, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, as well as the sitting and current Vice President-elect, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. But Ogun State has been a swing state since 1999. I voted an AD government in 1999, PDP in 2003 and 2007, ACN in 2011, and APC in 2015. So it's not surprising that this is a state that many parties see as worthy of the struggle. The noteworthy candidates being presented by the parties on Saturday and their heavyweight promoters include Adekunle Akinlade of the Allied People's Movement, supported by the incumbent governor Ibikunle Amosun. Boyega Nasir Isiaka of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, supported by former President Obasanjo and some traditional rulers. Dapo Abiodun of the All Progressives Congress, APC, supported by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Vice President of Osinbajo and the ruling party. Buruji Kashamu of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, the largest opposition party in the state, and himself a sitting senator, and Dimeji Bankole of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, who is a former Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives. The political parties which appeared to lead the contest about a year ago were the ruling APC and the opposition PDP. However, the waters became muddied by the refusal of the APC National Working Group and the party's rival factions within the states to endorse Adekunle Akinlade, the anointed candidate of the incumbent governor, Senator Ibikunle Amosun, at the primaries. Akinlade subsequently left the APC to seek as his aspiration on the platform of the APM, with Amosun vowing to continue to support him for the governorship while retaining his own membership of the APC. The effect of this internal rift and its most public dramatization was the stoning of the president and his entourage during a February rally in Abeokuta, allegedly by elements hired by Amosun to disrupt the rally. Right after the presidential elections were won by the APC, Amosun was promptly suspended by the party for anti-party activities. Meanwhile, Dapo Abiodun has the unalloyed support of the ruling party at the center. Its leaders, particularly Tinubu and Osinbajo, and has deployed its extensive party machinery to aid it to win. It's expected that the spirit within the party would affect its performance at the polls tomorrow. The opposition PDP in Ogun State has also had its share of internal crisis, dating back to the turbulent days of the sometimes controversial Otumba Gbenga Daniel. When he didn't have his way in determining his successor in 2011, among other issues at the time, he took his supporters to the then nascent PPN, both of which lost at the 2011 elections. Amosun's ACN won those elections simply because its simple majority was greater than the divided votes of the PDP and the PPN. The PDP hasn't really recovered since then, and in spite of recent efforts to rally the party again, the contest for the gubernatorial ticket between Kashamu and Adebutu in the post-primary period further weakened the party. Next, I'll go to Kano. Kano has 29 candidates contesting for the governorship of Kano State. But the major battle is between Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of the APC and his main rival from the PDP, Alhaji Abba Kabiru Yusuf. Governor Ganduje had won a number of awards in the press, particularly for health and education, but he received significant negative publicity and a dent to his image after allegations and wide circulation of video material allegedly depicting him receiving millions of dollars bribery in cash. And he's up against, and the contest really is between Governor Ganduje's reputation and the issues of integrity around that, and the PDP rival, Alhaji Abba Kabiru Yusuf. On Monday, Federal High Court nullified the primary conducted by the PDP in Kano State, which had produced Abba Kabir Yusuf as the party's candidate. And that followed a suit filed by one of the governorship aspirants, Alhaji Ibrahim Ali Amin, who contended that he had been sidelined and booted out of the race. But just this morning, the Court of Appeal cleared Kabiru Yusuf as the PDP candidate for Kano State. What is unclear is to what extent, if any, this internal wrangling would have affected the chances of Alhaji Abba Kabiru Yusuf in tomorrow's elections. Prior to the presidential elections on February 23rd, the PDP was actually very hopeful that he would give the APC a very good fight in Kano State and probably even win. But the defeat of the PDP at the presidential and National Assembly elections appear to have dimmed those chances, particularly as the main PDP leader in the state, Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso, had been accused of imposing Yusuf on the party and refusing to hold primaries as stipulated in the Electoral Act. But since the Court of Appeal has now cleared Yusuf to contest, again, the issue is the extent to which these issues have weakened the chances of the PDP in the state. Given the sharp divide between Ganduje and Kwankwanso, it's been expected that a third option might emerge in the form of the People's Redemption Party. Their candidate, Salihu Sagir Takai, however, emerged under controversial circumstances. There was widespread allegations that General Suleiman Wali, retired, actually won the primaries, and that Takai came in late after losing in another party and seized the mandate. In any case, the PRP campaign doesn't seem to have generated much enthusiasm in the state. For almost 4 years, Kano has been a theater of open battle between the Kwankwansia movement and the Gandujia political divide. The former is a mass political movement led by Senator Rabiu Kwankwanso, former presidential aspirant under the PDP, a former governor and ex-minister. And on the other side is the incumbent governor, Umar Ganduje, an estranged aide and protege of Kwankwanso, who has sworn to retire his former benefactor from Kano politics in the coming polls. Both men have large followings, and the battle of the 9th of March would be an epic battle between the two of them. Finally, I'll go to Kaduna State. Kaduna has all the factors that make it an interesting state to watch. There are issues of religion, there are issues of ethnicity, there are issues of geography, there are issues of gender, all present in Kaduna State. But the first point to make is that this is a state that is prone to violence. And this violence follows a sharp division across ethno-religious lines in the north and the south of the state. The presidential and national election results of 23rd February reflected that divide, with the APC receiving 993,445 votes against the PDP's 649,612 votes. It was a division roughly of 60% for the APC and 40% for the PDP. If one were to carry those odds forward to the gubernatorial race, it would appear that the APC is likely to have an edge in Kaduna State. However, the issues around the election of the president may not necessarily be identical to the ones surrounding the election of the governor. The state governor, Nasir El-Rufai, has had both negative and positive reviews, which may affect his re-election bid. On the one side, his selection of Hadiza Balarabe, a fellow Muslim, as a running mate, has been seen by many as being quite controversial, given the nature of the state. However, Hadiza Balarabe is also, I believe, the first female deputy governorship candidate in northern Nigeria. And so that is also another interesting dimension to Kaduna State. But being the first female deputy governorship aspirant in northern Nigeria, she's also from southern Kaduna, which is predominantly Christian, although she herself is a Muslim. In addition to that, there is the simmering antagonism of the Shiite group in the state, whose national leader is still in captivity and who the group has threatened as a body to vote against the re-election of Governor El-Rufai. In terms of the political elites in the state, they range from architect Namadi Sambo, the immediate past vice president of Nigeria, the former acting caretaker chairman of the PDP, and also one-time governor of the state, Alhaji Senator Ahmed McCarthy, another former governor, Ramalan Yero, plus political heavyweights such as Suleiman Hunkuyi, Yaro Makama, and Ambassador Sule Buba, who were all in the same political camp with Governor El-Rufai, but are now in the PDP and may want to undermine his re-election for governor. Finally, another factor that may affect Governor El-Rufai's re-election is Alhaji Isa Ashiru Kudan, the gubernatorial candidate of the PDP, who is regarded by many to be an equal match for El-Rufai going into the contest. What seems clear is that the current governor has achieved a measure of success in institutionalizing efficient governance systems in the state. Among others, El-Rufai is reputed to have reduced waste in government by pruning the size of his government, eliminated ghost workers from the payroll, and also cut down on various frivolous expenses, and has also introduced the Treasury Single Account, which is a replication of the efforts at federal level. That's in addition to also the zero-based budgeting framework and the cleanup that he has carried out in the education sector to ensure that uncertificated teachers have been flushed out of the system. There is no doubt that some of these measures have impacted negatively on some people and a number of citizens in the state. But there's also no doubt that a lot of these radical changes have also been appreciated by many, including some of those who have adversely been affected by them. And so the issue is the controversial decisions that Governor El-Rufai has taken. How would that be judged by the voting populace of Kaduna State? And what chances does Alhaji Isa Ashiru Kudan of the PDP have, particularly with the backing of the many of the political heavyweights in the state? That concludes our analysis of the states we will be watching. You will note that we've been very careful not to make any predictions. We have simply highlighted the issues that we'll be watching in these environments as the elections unfold tomorrow. I've been told that we are able to take questions, and my colleagues on the table will assist me in doing that. Thank you very much.